Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terry Cole Show. I'm going to start with a couple of sentences, and I want you to close your eyes and notice if any of these phrases lands for you in your body. You ready? Okay. It's fine. I got it. Don't worry about me, or I'll figure it out. Did anything in you, did that feel familiar to you? Did anything in you tighten? Did you feel a little flicker? Or do you know someone who says that? Either way, this episode is for you, my friend. I'm going to be talking about the most common phrases that sort of keep us stuck in high functioning codependent behaviors. It's almost like there is a narrative to the lives that we live, right? It's almost like a soundtrack to keeping us behaving the way that we are. So in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about why these phrases and what you can swap them for. What can we do instead? All right, let's move it on into today's episode. All right, the four phrases that HFCs or high functioning codependents have a tendency to say without realizing it is what we're talking about today. So again, I'm fine. I got it. Don't worry about me. And I'll figure it out. So many of these phrases, these are like sort of micro phrases. It's almost like taglines for life. And these sound really generous. Like, you don't have to worry about me, right? I've got it covered. Everything is fine. But there's an invisibility to what we're really doing and the way that we're setting ourselves up and what the cost is to us as human beings to continually say these phrases. So these are not just like bad habits, right? What is really happening is this is a nervous system response. This is habituated behavior, things that we have done over and over and over in our lives. For those of you who take on more responsibility than other people, let's just say, in your family or in your work situation. So a lot of times it's because we are reacting before we are thinking. Right? As high functioning codependents, if you're not in recovery, and even if you are, there's this tendency to, as soon as a problem comes up, we're like, oh, I got it. I got the answer. Don't worry about it. Right. And what we want to think about, and what this episode is really all about, is how do we pause so that we can choose differently? Right? The pause itself in that moment, before we say, I got it, that is the intervention itself. Because without the pause, if we're just on autopilot, the way that many of us live our lives, it will be very hard to change what it is that you're saying. So when you think about these phrases, and I have to raise my hand for every single one of them in my life. These are very adaptive phrases. Right? It's fine. I got it. Don't worry about me. I'll figure it out. So there's a hyperindependence that comes with those phrases. And when you think about where we learn them, of course, I hate to say, let's go back to the scene of the crime, which is called childhood, but we have to, because that is exactly where this stuff gets planted. If you grew up in a household where you couldn't really have needs, right? Where a household where being easygoing equaled being loved or being accepted. Or if you were the family, the person in the family who was very capable, a lot of hero children or golden children, we call the golden child, those roles will have these phrases attached to them. It's all of this self-responsibility. And what does it look like? Now, for me personally, I became an HFC for a lot of different reasons, but one of them is that I felt like if it was going to get done, I had to do it, right? So I didn't feel comfortable, or I didn't trust other people to do it. So let's break down the phrases. Let's start with it's fine. How many of you, I wish you could just show me a show of hands, how many people say it's fine when it's not? I tell this story sometimes that I had a therapy client who would literally tell me the most horrendous thing that her partner did, like terrible. And then she would say, listen, but it's fine. It was like a tagline. It was like she would say it after every terrible thing she told me. And of course, at first I just observed it. And then I was like, let me ask you a question. Why are you saying it's fine? Like, why? Why are you saying it's fine when it's not fine? And she really was like, wow, I don't even know that I'm doing it. It's so incredibly habituated. So this is a reflex for people. For her, it was a reflex. Think about yourself. Do you have that same reflex? Because so much of the time we say it's fine long before we've checked in with ourselves as to whether what is going on is actually fine. And what does it do? So what is the secondary gain, as I would say, of saying it's fine when it's not fine? Well, it shuts down the conversation. So now no one has to sit with your discomfort because you just denied it. You self-abandoned in that moment. When you said it's fine to something that's not fine, it's exactly what you're doing. But part of why, as HFCs, one of the telltale signs is that we don't want to burden other people with how we feel. We don't want to burden other people with there being a problem. We don't think other people can handle problems. I mean, it is a little egotistical. It's always like feeling like you're the best equipped in the room to fix whatever is wrong. And the like being allergic to other people's painful feelings too. So we're like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And what is the cost to us? Well, I mean, when you think about what happens when we have these sort of micro resentments, they have a tendency to stack. So the more self-abandoning we do, and the more we immediately move to it's fine, we've now removed the opportunity for the other person to create repair with us around something. The moment we are, and it's also not honest, right? When we say it's fine when it's not, that's being like straight up dishonest. That is not being honest. So what could you swap out instead? And you don't worry, this will all be in the guide for you. Just go to terricole.com/guide and I'll give you all the phrases that I created for this episode. Actually, you could say, let me think about that for a second, because the skill itself is the pause. And if you don't want someone staring at you while you're thinking about it, you can say, I want to think about that. Let me get back to you tomorrow. Like, you don't owe anyone an immediate response. And I think so much of the time, as high-functioning codependents, for sure, we feel like we do. We don't want to leave someone waiting. We're so worried about what other people think. So that's the swap for it's fine is going to turn into, actually, let me think about that. All right, the second phrase that we're going to work on is I got it. Now, this was, for sure, me. That was, I was the queen of I got it, whether it didn't matter what was happening that I said I got. And it's funny, so I could be traveling and, the cab driver's trying to pick up my bag. I'm like, I got it. I'm bagging my own groceries. I got it, whatever. And it was so funny. It was almost like the universe put my one of my best friends in my life because she was even more of a high functioning codependent than me. And we were traveling together and she would pick up my carry-on bag and her carry-on bag. And be like, no, I can carry them both. I'm like, hello, psycho, why would you? Like, what is wrong with you? But that's an extreme, right? Where her reflex is to take all the responsibility for other people. And it's funny, two HFCs as friends, we butt heads, right? Because we're both saying, I got it, which is so funny. When you think about what is I got it, though, again, it's another ingrained, habituated response. So we're saying it right in the middle of what someone is saying. They're like asking for something, they're not even done saying it. But what are we really doing? Well, when you think about it from the point of view of what is your role with that person or what is your role in life, is we are protecting ourselves as like the capable one. Makes us less vulnerable, right? And what is the cost to us for doing that? Well, you train people to stop offering. When Vic and I first got together, my husband of almost 30 years, I remember he would always want to like drive into the city to pick me up and then drive back to New Jersey. And I was like, well, that doesn't even make sense. I could just take the train. It takes 20 minutes. And after the third time I said to my mother, this guy always wants to scoop me up. That's what he used to say. He would like drive in and scoop me up. My mother finally said, Terri, he wants to do nice things for you. He's wanting to make your life easier. Why are you not letting him? And I was like, oh my God, I don't know why I'm not letting him. But part of it is I was the I got it girl. So I was not used to other people doing anything. And the cost to your relationships is exactly this. You train everyone to stop offering, and then you resent them for not offering. And my mother's final word on that to me, I was complaining about my boyfriend at the time. I don't know. He couldn't vacuum or brown garlic. I think that's what I was complaining about. And she said, Terri, first of all, your father never picked up a pan in his life. So start there. And never vacuumed either. And she said, but let me tell you something. Let this be cautionary. That if you need everything done exactly your way, you will end up like me, doing everything and doing it all yourself. So be careful. She's like, let him vacuum badly rather than shame him about his vacuuming skills. And I was like, wow, because that is exactly what happened, at least in my mother's life. You just train people to stop offering, and they do. So what is the swap? Someone says, instead of saying, I got it, someone offers and we say, yes, actually, can you take this? Or we straight up ask, hey, I've got to make these two things. Can you help? Because I'm very busy. Like part of this swapping for the I got it is knowing that asking for help is also a way of having relationships with people. Real relationships require mutuality, not just you always having it and having no needs. Right? And a lot of us learned in childhood that having no needs made us very valuable, but it's very lonely. It's so isolating. Phrase number 3 that we're going to handle, don't worry about me. So what is that? Reflex, right? This is often said in response to genuine concern, right? And you're like, don't worry, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm good. Why is it, if you're a high functioning codependent, that someone else being concerned about you is so uncomfortable? And it is. Well, what happens when we do that enough, again, because we're shutting people down, we're preemptively shutting ourselves down when we say, don't worry about me, and shutting them down so that we don't, again, we're back to being a burden. We don't want to burden other people with whatever it is that's going on in our life. We don't want them to worry about us. But what is the cost of doing that? Well, in some ways, you become invisible, right, in your own life, meaning the people that you love don't really know you or where you are because you're not telling them about the hard times. You feel like to be palatable or for other people's experience to be good with you, you have to be okay. And that really, really limits the amount of intimacy that you're going to create in your relationships, right? People who love you are going to worry about you, and we have to let them. And hopefully their worrying turns into taking action to support whatever it is that you're doing. So the swap here for don't worry about me, instead of that, it's going to be thank you for asking. Here's where I actually am, or here's what's going on with me, or I'm really struggling. And just allow yourself. And here's the thing, you guys, we have to allow ourselves, but it's got to be with emotionally trustworthy folks. So if you're with a friend who will throw some shit back up in your face later, then maybe not. Then maybe not have that be the friend that you decide to get really vulnerable with, We've got to really, emotional safety has to be like the utmost importance in our life. And we are the only ones who can make that a priority and decide who has the privilege of being close to our most tender heart, as I always say, but it's true. All right, the fourth one is I'll figure it out. Now, what is the reflex here? It's right. This could be about a problem that affects you or someone else, but you're always taking it on, right? You've already taken it on solo. It's like when your best friend calls you in a crisis. How quickly does her crisis be, I'll figure it out for you, right? How quickly is that crisis now your crisis, which is not the same as being compassionate or being sympathetic or being empathetic, right? Taking it on is a whole different ball of wax. And as high functioning codependents, if you identify as such, we do this often. The moment there's a crisis, we're like, okay, I'm going to figure it out. I've got to figure it out, right? And what is really happening here when we take over our friend's problem? Well, we are blocking collaboration, right? We are blocking real partnership. Figuring something out together is different than saying, I'll figure it out, right? They're two different things. And again, what is the cost of doing this in our life? You feel very alone. It's like nobody is in the foxhole or the trenches with you during your dark night of the soul because you don't let them. Because hyperindependence says, I'll figure it out. So what if we swapped that out? The language swap for this and the emotional swap is just, can we figure this out together? It might be uncomfortable, but that's what it is. That is what being vulnerable is. That is what sharing yourself in a real way is. And you're so worth knowing. Like, you are so worth knowing. And all of these things, when we do them habitually, are ways that we block folks from intimately knowing us. And what is the cumulative cost of this for us? Well, chronic resentment. And because it's so subtle what we're doing, you may not even understand where the source is coming from, that the source really is coming from you, right? It's like another cost is feeling existential loneliness, right? You could be surrounded by people who love a version of you that isn't really the authentic you if you don't never allow yourself to struggle. What other costs? Nervous system exhaustion, right? Being so preemptive and so hypervigilant and preempting your needs and always having other people's needs on the top of your mind cost something of your nervous system. And another part of the cost is a self that you may not recognize, right? After years and years of behaving this way, you may not even know what you would say if you stopped these automatic making everything okay for everyone else. But that's why in this episode, I gave you ways to swap it out, which hopefully you will look at these phrases as basically opening the door to real conversation, opening the door to mutuality and collaboration, opening the door to being intimately known. And hey, you might, when you first start swapping this out or changing, if you're really going to take it on, you might be uncomfortable, right? Your body might read this as like, ooh, this new behavior might be dangerous, you know? The other person might also have an interesting response to you changing. They might be excited. They might be confused, right? They might be annoyed. But none of that means you did anything wrong, right? When we change our relationship dance, the other person is going to notice, and that does not mean abort the mission. And you also may start to make these swaps, start to make these changes, and then feel like you want to take it back, right? So you might want to over-explain. You might want to just say, forget it. I got it. Like, don't worry about it, you know? And what I'm saying is that that is where the work is at. So don't take it back. Write about it instead of taking it back, and allow yourself to be seen and known, right? Because it's so important for you to be seen in your life. And when we're sort of performing these things, and I did it for a long time, you guys, so you know, when I'm talking about any of this stuff, I'm never judging. I've been in that trench myself, but it's so much nicer not being there. So I want you to really go through, get the guide, terricole.com/guide. And really, when you look at those 4 phrases, pick the one that made you the most, that resonated with you the most. You know, mine is, I got it. Yours might be something else. And then just do a 7-day sort of an inventory of how often does that come out of your mouth, whatever the most familiar phrase is. We don't have to change it yet, but just start looking to see, because a lot of times we'll identify like, oh, this person kicks up my need to be hyper independent more than someone else, because awareness always happens before the change. So go get the scripts that I created in terricole.com/guide. I hope that this episode of the Terri Cole Show added value to your life. I hope you guys have the most amazing week. And as always, take care of you.